the most prized wide receiver in America, is apparently back on the market. So what can Dave Aranda do to lure him away from Texas Tech? Let's get Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Bears fans. Welcome to your evening edition of Locked On Baylor, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on YouTube through Rogue Media Sports Network. Appreciate you making it your first and second listen every day as we give you a little football update in today's show. One of the prime Baylor targets is now back potentially in the transfer portal, and how Baylor can kind of get in on the action here. Plus, we'll take a look at the keys to the game for Wednesday night's matchup against Kansas State, a must-win for Scott Drew's Bears. That's coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. From the very beginning, when Micah Hudson went into the transfer portal last month, I was like, this has to be the guy that Baylor makes a serious push for. It was always going to be an uphill battle. Micah Hudson was a five-star prospect out of high school just last year, right in Baylor's backyard at Lake Belton, which is in Temple, and was one of the most sought-after playmakers in the entire country. Like, he could have played anywhere he wanted. And he kind of shocked the world by going to Tech, committing to Tech during his senior year, because it was the biggest recruit that Tech had ever gotten. And there was all this fanfare building up to the season, whether he was going to play, how much he was going to be involved, and he doesn't get a ton of shine during the season. And so he hits the portal, transfers to A&M, and just last week the reports came out he's stepping away from the football team at A&M, and now there's rumblings around that he might not come back. Matt Zenitz of 247 is saying it's not a foregone conclusion right now that Micah Hudson is going to be back with the Aggies. And now there are sightings of him in Lubbock at his old alma mater at Texas Tech, and potentially a reunion there. Our guys from Locked On Texas Tech, Chris Level, who does a great show with Casey Cowan, was saying that, there's the rumblings of him being there, and it's an odd situation because they're trying to figure out, and this isn't just Tech, this is other coaches too, whether he's going to come back at A&M. There are reports that he's not enrolled in classes at A&M for this semester, and just trying to find out like the availability here, because obviously he's going to demand a good NIL package, right? We heard all the rumors of what he was demanding when he was at Tech in terms of, the certain amount of money, how many tickets he can give to his family, the driver, all that kind of thing, and unsubstantiated. Like, we don't know that for sure. But obviously a player of his ilk or his potential, I guess, is going to demand quite a big paycheck to come and play for your school. But coaches are now trying to figure out, is he even available right now? And certainly they must know something at Tech, because there are all kinds of reports of sightings of him meeting with people in Lubbock, to which I say, if Micah Hudson is available, Dave Aranda needs to put something together. Okay? Like, you're talking about a kid with 3 years of eligibility left, who was projected out of high school to be like a day 1 or 2 pick in the NFL draft. Look, we're talking about a Sunday player, not a Saturday player, a Sunday guy who can make all kinds of impact on Saturdays. And I said it at the time, A&M didn't make a ton of sense outside of the financial part of it. Obviously, A&M can outspend just about everybody. And A&M, some of you are probably watching it right now, they'll be saying, well, we're in the SEC. Obviously wants to come play for the big boys. Yep, well, you're very distant second in SEC programs in your own state. So it's not like, hey, I'm going to go to A&M and win conference championships and play in the playoff, because that's not really an option at A&M. They don't like winning conference championships. And honestly, Baylor has a better shot at the college football playoff. And if you could say it's because they play in a minor league, womp womp. You shouldn't have left. That Baylor definitely has a better shot. And when you look at, Tech, Baron Morton, I like Baron Morton, but I wouldn't say he's one of the best quarterbacks in this conference. and they had struggles at times last year. In fact, I had plenty of Tech fans in my comments after I was, kind of hyping up Baron Morton a little bit leading up to that game, saying, no, he's not what you're saying he is. He's not always cracked up to be. And A&M with Marcel Reed, they're hoping he's the guy, but they don't really know there. And they brought in maybe the only receiver who was better with better potential than Micah Hudson in the portal in Concepcion from NC State. And so, like, if Micah wants to stay close to home, which is certainly what it sounds like with what his interest was out of high school, like, Baylor's a better option than A&M or probably Tech. In terms of the offense you're going to play in, Jake Spavital, how about let's look at the quarterback? Baron Morton, Sawyer Robertson, you saw it from the sideline last year, Micah. Spavital, Sawyer Robertson, all these guys coming back for Baylor. Like, that is a better option in 2025 than A&M is, and probably Tech. And by the way, this is where a great Tech offseason might come back to bite them. And it's not their fault. Micah Hudson left, and they went out and they got one of the best portal classes in the country. They got some playmakers. All right, they've done the replacing here. Like, they're hyping up this great team, and the playmakers they've gotten out of the portal, like, they've gone and got their guys. They feel they've got their team. And that might be the discussion that Micah Hudson's having in Lubbock right now. But if you want to stay close to home and you want to play in a high-octane offense, like, Baylor is the spot. And to be honest, sure, UT would probably be a good spot, but that has not been on the radar. Like, we have not heard the Micah Hudson UT rumblings. We didn't really hear it in the portal this year, and it kind of petered out by, I don't know, football season last year, and he committed to Tech in September, I want to say. So this is one, especially at a position of need for Baylor, as we've talked about over and over again, where you've got to kick the tires on this thing. You've got to at least put something together and say, hey, Micah, we can't give you as much as A&M, but we can give you this pretty good number right here, this check. Get you the driver, sure. Oh, and also, we can be playing in the college football playoff. We have a better shot at that than A&M does, and we have a better shot at it than Tech does. I think you can sweeten the pot here. I really do. And if Micah Hudson is out there on the market, it's definitely one to go after. And I've heard from some people that are familiar with the situation, that Baylor is at least trying to figure out his status, is the way they put it. And again, that goes back to whether he is going to come back to A&M, whether he's enrolled in classes. That's what I've heard with someone close to the situation with real good knowledge of it, that Baylor's not the only one in state that is looking to see what his eligibility is and what he wants to do in this portal cycle. TCU is also checked in as well. Again, that's not putting together a package. That's just seeing if the kid is really looking around other places again. I certainly hope for the best for Micah wherever it is. I hope he doesn't, crush Baylor or anything, but certainly it seems like a weird situation. Stepped aside from the football team last week, people were citing mental health reasons or just trying to kind of get his stuff figured out. It's not an easy position, man. I mean, you're talking about a kid with all kinds of hype in high school and everyone telling him he's going to play in the NFL. And now everyone telling him how much money he's going to make in college and trying to get that squared away when you're 17. It's not an easy thing. Like, I do really feel for this kid. And it's probably not something he asked for necessarily. Not that any of us are turning down money, but I think this kind of situation probably has become a bit more than he bargained for. So certainly hoping the best for him. And hoping that Baylor's at least checking this out more so than just his eligibility. Let's just say that. Or his availability, I guess is a better way to put it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below on YouTube or tweet at us at Locked On Baylor. Liking and subscribing. That helps out a ton. Locked On Baylor rolls on. We're going to talk about the keys to victory against a embattled, if you can call it that, Kansas State team. That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, this message is brought to you by the good folks at PrizePicks, but read through me. It's the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, PrizePicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or the regular season, PrizePicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Now, it's playoff time, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least two players, and if your picks hit, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. Yes, that's right. 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. For me, I like doing the hot takes. It didn't work for me with Travis Kelce over the weekend. I'm going to redeem myself this weekend. And with the app, I can get my winnings fast, sometimes as little as 15 minutes. So download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with PrizePicks. PrizePicks, run your game. Must-win game for Baylor tonight against Kansas State. And I'm sure the Kansas State folks, their podcasters, are saying the same thing. Must-win game at the Foster Pavilion tonight just for the other side. Because here we have two teams that are looking to build NCAA tournament resumes. And I kind of said it in yesterday's show or I guess earlier today's show with Sydney about how, this win looks good on paper if you're Kansas State, but still, like, it's more so for both these teams to take a step in the right direction. Like for Kansas State, that's a road Big 12 victory. Baylor's not going to finish under 500 or anything, so that's going to be a quality win. Baylor needs to string a couple wins together, and it starts tonight. Like this, if you lose to Kansas State, we're smacking the panic button, like smacking it. And then we have to have a serious talk about the NCAA tournament and NIT games at the Foster Pavilion. Like that's going to have to become a discussion if they lose this game tonight. That said, Kansas State's not as good as Baylor, even though Baylor is scuffling. Kansas State is a team that's really in flux right now. And there are some things, some stats in this game that actually favor Baylor, which it hasn't happened often so far this year. Kansas State's one of the worst offensive teams in the Big 12, whereas Baylor is still at the top, near the top, I should say, not at the top, but they are number 3 in the conference. Excuse me, number 4 in points per game. Kansas State down there at 13th. But as we know, like that number is decreasing. All right, not just because of conference play. Like anyone who's watched this team the last few weeks is saying that's not a top 5 offensive team in the Big 12. Like, it's just not. They don't have the shot makers. They don't. And neither one of these teams are very impressive defensively. Baylor barely cracks the top 10 in the conference. Kansas State, keeping it real, consistency down there in 13th. And their margin this year, not including Big 12 games, has stunk. And it's just a team that's really reeling. And the thing that puts them so far behind offensively is they also don't have shot makers. They're 12th in the conference in 3-pointers made. Again, Baylor up there at 3, but we know that that's not the way they've been going recently. Jeremy Roach probably not going to play in this game. We haven't heard definitively, but it certainly sounds like he's not. So that takes a decent 3-point shooter out of the fray. These two teams actually have the worst perimeter defense in the conference, which I find very fascinating because this might become like this kind of war of attrition on who will miss more threes. They're literally Kansas State 15, Baylor 16th in opponent 3-point field goal percentage. The Bears have not defended the perimeter at all this year. Teams are shooting 37% from beyond the arc against them. And so you have two teams that have trouble throwing the ball into the ocean right now from 3-point land, and you just match them up against each other. I think that's funny. It's not despite Baylor being 3rd in percentage in the conference, I would say those are two teams that have the same weakness, right? And so who is going to, suckle a little bit less when it comes to that? But looking at strengths for Baylor, it's rebounding. That's what we've seen this year. Best offensive rebounding team in the conference. Haven't been great on the other side. How is a team number one in the Big 12 in offensive rebounds and 15th in the Big 12 in defensive rebounds? And you've seen how bad Baylor's been on the defensive glass. What team in the Big 12 can possibly be worse if Baylor's at 15th? You guessed it. The Kansas State Wildcats. The two worst defensive three-point teams in the conference and the two worst rebounding teams in the conference. This could be some bad news Bears stuff tonight. It really could be. And I mean, the game plan seemed pretty simple from the TCU game and from some of Baylor's losses this year. Like, if you neutralize what Norchad Omier can do on the glass, if you bully him a little bit, which is not easy to do, or Uday did it, but it's not an easy thing to do. But if you can neutralize his impact on the glass, Baylor doesn't have anything right now. Baylor doesn't have anything to make up for that. So in terms of like who I need to step up, I need Norchad to have a regular game. He didn't have a regular game on Sunday. Need him to have a regular game. In terms of stepping up, looking at you once again, Jaden Nunn. I thought early part of this season he was going to be their best three-point shooter. Whether he was coming off the bench or not, I thought he was a starter. He started pretty much every game of his career, like 90-plus games, and now he's on the bench. That's fine. That's fine. Probably won't be tonight because of the Roach injury. But he needs to be like a 40% three-point shooter. We've seen how hot he can get against, New Orleans and Arlington Baptist. Like, the kid can shoot, but he doesn't do it against good teams. And now you need to. Everyone's talking about, we had it on the show earlier today, that next man up. Scott was talking about it. Jalen Celestine was talking about it. VJ Edgecombe was talking about it. We need other people to step up in the face of these injuries. That's number one. This was a guy who was a starter this whole year up until last game and is the only returning starter to this team and is a good three-point shooter against air. He needs to step up. He needs to be a three-point shooter for this team. So if Jaden Nunn gets unlocked tonight, Baylor's going to win, no problem. But if it's the Jaden Nunn we've seen the last couple of weeks, dogfight. You're in for an absolute dogfight. But if Jaden Nunn can hit his shots and Baylor can, shoot 28% from three, Kansas State will shoot 25%, and Scott Drew will get his first win over Jerome Tang. But we know Tang is a great motivator. He knows that his job is teetering a little bit here at the end of January and that this is a special place for him to go and coach. He'll have those guys ready, I think. He'll have those guys ready. And maybe it gets my better judgment after all that I've said the last few days. I've got Baylor winning this one, white knuckling it, 76-71. Let me know your score prediction down in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this game tonight. Let me know what you think about Micah Hudson, whether Baylor should be making a push at him or should they look elsewhere. Let me know in the comments below. If you like the video, like the video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel where you get the best Baylor content every day. We're a best Baylor show in the market at this point. And you're getting it 5 days a week, twice a week, Monday through Thursday. We've got the squad show tomorrow afternoon. And then, of course, the portal update on Friday. And of course, we will have our daily show tomorrow, breaking down this game tonight and a little bit around the football sphere once again. So be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me how great I am. Tell me how much you hate me. Please do in the comment section below. And thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. We will see you in the morning on Locked On Baylor.